Fightful Select reported on Tuesday that Sammy Guevara has been suspended. The site writes that Sammy Guevara is now serving a suspension in connection to the February 14th match he had against Jeff Hardy. During the match, Jeff Hardy sustained an injury and concussion protocol was not followed, which resulted in Sammy Guevara hitting his finisher on Hardy, which we're told should not have happened. We haven't been given specifics on how long the suspension is or additional details. Guevara did end up working a no DQ match with Powerhouse Hobbs after the Hardy match. There were some that thought Guevara's lack of selling after the Hobbs match could have contributed to the suspension, but we have not confirmed as much. And for those asking about the referee's role, we haven't heard of any disciplinary action in that regard as of yet. This is a very unique suspension. I can't think of too many that have been, in this kind of line of like a protocol in the heat of a match where an injury happens and not knowing sort of what the communication was between performers and referee. How aware is Sammy Guevara of the state of Jeff Hardy? Obviously he's knowing, like he's hurt. You can see the blood and landing on him, but we're talking about a live to tape match because this was for Rampage, as I recall. I look at this and in the one sense, you do want to make this like a very hard line stance that these protocols need to be followed. But there's also, I think you look at this as well as, you would want to know like the exact details of what was going down in the match. Was it like a direct disobeying of orders, or is there a more of a gray area of kind of not even knowing that the guy has a concussion in the moment, and the thought that we always talk about, just get to the finish or complete the match as you have mapped out.
Hard for me to see them suspending him if he didn't know that he had a concussion. Otherwise, how would he know to engage protocol? This is a very unique case and a very almost bizarre case, just to kind of like, grasp at with the little information that we have. But I think we do know that Sammy, of everybody involved in that situation, was the only person to be suspended. Paul Turner, the referee, was on Dynamite tonight. As far as we know, no sort of disciplinary action to the doctors or whatever physician was ringside. So somewhere in that chain of communication, Sammy was the one they deemed to be the person to clearly disobey whatever these rules are. And it's
because he goes for the GTH after the Shooting Star press.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a question of the move set? Like it's very hard to look at. Like, remember back at I think it was the Grand Slam event where Moxley gets hurt immediately at the beginning against Ray Phoenix, and everyone thinks later it's like the Phoenix driver, but it was in fact like one of the first spots of the match was John Moxley like violating concussion protocol by continuing on with the match. I mean, that is sort of like it just opens up this whole spectrum of, and it's very hard to be able to get into the mind of the performer, is that they are hardwired to complete the match, to continue. And
so for one thing, we don't know what concussion protocol entails in AEW. Secondly,
it would be something very helpful to have a little bit of knowledge of what exactly that is.
And that's up to them to volunteer, to communicate to the public if they deem it's worth their while, which I think, transparency in with something like this is always worthwhile to communicate with your audience. The other question is, should the protocol not simply be to end the match when you realize somebody is concussed? We are seeing currently, with the WWE, they have no issue stopping a match. Finish be damned, like it's over. It's over. This fictitious acting stage play is done because
it's done. Head or neck. If there is concern, that's automatic. And that one you cannot put on the performers. You cannot be entrusting them to be able to wave off a match. There has to be a mechanism in place that they are protected from themselves, and that would be on the referee or whoever is communicating to the referee. I'm with you. I think that if you have a suspicion of a concussion, probably time to just wave off the match at this point.
I think that's the bigger, to me, possible fault you can lay at AEW itself, in a story like this. Why even leave it up to the performer at that point when you have the ability
the secondary blow that is could be more damaging than the initial one. And we know enough that just avoiding the head does not mean that you are going to be safe from a concussion. Like, you can just be rattled and that's going to impact you. Like, just taking a back bump could be very dangerous.
Just taking a roll up, just taking a
Anything.
roll up is probably frowned upon in that state. So yeah, a lot of questions I hope to hear a bit more clarity from Tony Khan about.